What's up guys, it's BT here, and this is a review of the Endgame XM1 mouse. Now, in a market where all the top mice now have the best possible sensors and the weights are getting extremely low, we're at a point where, in my opinion, we've kind of forgotten just how much shape plays a factor in how well a mouse performs. Now, another factor that I'm really interested in is clicks and switches in mice and how they help us perform overall. Endgame is marketing the XM1 with what they are calling the analog switch activation technology, which has less than a 1 millisecond response time. But after using this mouse for a while now, I really think that something else is really the star of the show here with the XM1. So today we're going to get into what I think that is and more as we go over the features of this mouse to see if this is truly an in-game mouse. Coming in at $60, the build quality of this mouse feels outstanding. There's no rattling or anything like that. Let's take a look. Very solid piece of plastic here. Feels great in the hand. I gotta admit, it's kind of spoiled me in that regard, because when I go to other mice, I can 100% tell that the mouse clicks, the mouse 1 and 2 are wobbly, or the side buttons are wobbly. So it's really nice to have a really well built mouse here. It weighs in at 72 grams with a little bit of cable added and no honeycomb design, which I really like. Now, I don't know why, but this feels heavier than my G Pro wireless. I don't know what it is. That mouse is actually 80 grams, which is heavier, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just a low profile design of this mouse, it feels heavier. They've got these 4 big PTF feet that are really smooth, but I know I've seen some comments about the edges of the feet. I think if they were to design this mouse again, I would make less edges around the feet so that there's less, I don't know, less places for it to catch on your mouse pad. So some smooth, rounded off feet would have been better here. Also, they are quite thin, so they won't last as long as some of the other competitors out there. It has a rubber cord, which I really would have liked to have seen a paracord here if this was going to be a true in-game mouse. It doesn't get in the way like a braided cable would, but it's nowhere close to how good some of the other cords on the market feel currently. You'll definitely need a mouse bungee for this mouse cord. Drop a like on this video if you'd like to see me make a video on how to paracord this XM1. Now, the dimensions of this mouse are 122 by 66 by 38 millimeters. It's got a low, flat, and wide profile to it with a nice hump. There are some indentations near the middle of the mouse so that it's more comfortable for your thumb and pinky, which I like. The mouse 1 and 2 buttons are sloped down. It really reminds me of like a DM1 FPS or the old SteelSeries Sensei. As a claw grip user, I always aim really well with these low profile, wide claw grip mice. Compared to like a G Pro wireless, it's got about the same amount of length. It's just a little bit wider than it, so it feels like a bigger mouse overall. The hump is placed further back on the XM1 compared to the G Pro wireless, which feels amazing for you claw grip users and fingertip grip users out there. I've always seen people say, I cannot claw grip the G Pro wireless, so this would be a great replacement to the G Pro wireless if you're looking for something with kind of the same length, but you're missing that palm kind of stability in the back for your claw grip. Now, even though on their website it says you can palm it, I found that 122 palm is almost impossible because of its big hump. Now, the 131 slightly works here. What's more is when you have the weight of your hand on the backside of this mouse, say you're like palm gripping and you're laying that full force of your hand down on the mouse, the backside of the mouse has kind of a sharp edge to it and it kind of digs into the mouse pad. Now, it's a medium or large size mouse. My hands at 19 by 8.5 centimeters give me a little bit of breathing room, so it's kind of nice. It has these nice hips so you can get control of the mouse with your pinky and thumb, like I mentioned before. Now, the mouse 1 and 2 are very long, but this is actually genius in a way. Hear me out. So if you have smaller hands, right, your fingers aren't going to be reaching as far up on the mouse. If you're a fingertip grip user, you can slide your hand back on the mouse 1 and 2 and have a very similar feel throughout the entire mouse button. And I've only really seen this on like a Logitech mouse where like if you press it anywhere on the mouse 1 and 2, it pretty much is very similar to when you press it near the front and near the back. So let's drop a sound test so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So here it is near the front of the mouse, middle, and back. So it at every single point, it feels pretty much the same. So you're not going to lose any leverage, or you're not going to gain any leverage by pressing it near the front or the back of the mouse, which is nice. Now let's do the mouse 2. Very consistent all the way through this mouse. So very nice. Let's do some jitter clicking. Oh yeah. The scroll wheel feels perfect while scrolling. The side buttons are nice and clicky. They are near the top side of the mouse, so they won't get in the way if you're a fingertip grip user. So what I found with this mouse is when I was using Kovacs, right, my scores, I would be more accurate, but my scores would always be lower. And I'm like, why is that? And I felt like because the clicks are so stiff, it made me slower overall. So keep that in mind. If you're somebody that grinds Kovacs, you might want to look elsewhere. Now you've got the DPI button on the bottom that shows the different colors for each step, which I'm always a fan of. The lights also show the pulling rate, which is at default 1000 Hertz. You can switch it to 125 or 500 by holding down the button for a few seconds. So let's drop a sound test of all the mouse buttons. Now here's mouse 1 and 2 again. Side buttons. Scroll wheel. This is actually one of my favorite scroll wheels on any mouse currently. I'd say the only thing that's better than it is probably like the G Pro wireless scroll wheel for me. Like bunny hopping feels great with this mouse. You know, and also doing the human reaction benchmark test compared to other mouse, I felt like this one was really consistent for me, around 170 to 180 milliseconds. With other mice, it would be varying from 160 to 220. So if anything, it seems like this tech, although I can't really measure the reaction times, you know, properly, I can't really test the 1 milliseconds. But what I found is that these clicks are actually really consistent through Kovacs, through human benchmarking. It's just the click timing with this mouse is really good. So that means just like when you want to click on something, it allows you to do that, but it's a little bit slower. You know, you're giving up the cost of speed for more consistency and more accuracy, if that makes sense. So you really have to think, what kind of gamer are you? Are you somebody that holds down the mouse 1 and 2? Are you somebody that jitter clicks? Are you somebody that just, you know, does flicking and, you know, you need to be right on top of it, accurate? So that you have to take all that into consideration when considering this mouse. So does it have the fastest clicks? Well, I don't think so. I don't think that it has the fastest clicks per se, because, you know, I measure clicking by how fast I can kind of jitter click and click from one thing to the other. And for me, it's consistent, but it's not the fastest. Now the Pixar 3389 sensor performs perfectly and goes up to 16,000 DPI, no issues here. Sometimes you just use a mouse and you can't understand why, but your aim is just so good with it. It's not the lightest mouse out there, but the shape is amazing and the clicks are extremely consistent. I think the low profile design of this mouse actually adds some stability to your shot with the mouse. I actually recently moved over to arm aim fingertip grip, which actually gives me the best of all worlds, and this mouse for some reason just performs outstandingly. Now, it's not the flashiest mouse out there. There's no RGB, there's no cool colors, there's no honeycomb design, there's no paracord, but it just works, and it works really well in game. I was hitting shots because it felt like the shape and coating just worked so well for my hand. Speaking of the coating, it does get a little bit you can see kind of fingerprints on it, but it locks into place really well. So I do like the coating, even though it does kind of show where your fingerprints are. Now, even though this mouse has its flaws, I still believe it's worth a shot if you're a claw or fingertip grip user based off the shape alone. But keep in mind, this mouse will need some modding, like a new paracord and some aftermarket feet. I would have liked to have seen those things just added right out of the box, but sometimes you can't have everything, can you? Alright guys, that's gonna do it for this review. It has been your boy BT. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.